Next, we have Melee, a LitRPG adventure book number 1, written by Wyatt Savage. It is 350 pages, $4.99. It is available on Kindle Unlimited, and here is the author's description. What was once virtual is now reality. Trapped in the middle of an alien invasion, Logan James, a down-on-his-luck dollar store cashier, discovers there's only one way out: compete in an alien-imposed game, a global battle royale called the Melee. Forced to fight with his best friend Dwayne and a cute cashier named Alicia, he finds that the rules are simple: battle against the other participants and an army of the galaxy's worst monsters and villains, level up, amass experience points and loots, and use any means necessary to reach the center of the Earth in 19 days. Hundreds of people will die, hundreds of people will live, hundreds of millions will die. So there we go. Honestly, story's kind of meh. It wasn't that great for me. Even though the setup story is something I've read before, like an alien imposed game system. I was hoping for something better than what actually turned out to be. Like the novel description is actually decently written. The story itself is not as engaging initially. The whole alien invasion thing is actually announced at the 4% mark. They're initially a kill game, right? And yet, with the exception like one good action scene, you kind of have to suffer through the first like 30-ish% of this novel, like first 31%, where there's essentially a bunch of background information given, character development stuff, for a bunch of people that I don't care about, and I never really did, and I never really even cared about the main character. So I get that what the author is trying to do in like creating this emotional bond with these characters by giving them extraing these events, so that when they die, there's supposed to be an emotional impact, or creating tension with people preparing for the bad that may come. However, it didn't really work for me. Like I said, I never really cared about the main character, much less the randomly named and killed people in the story. And all the talk about like preparing was intense. It was just kind of tedious for me. And that's kind of the overall impression of the book that I had. Once the actual like death kill game starts in the about 31% mark, the action is good. The action in the story is well written, nicely described fights and battles and everything. The main character is definitely overpowered, but that's just calling everything. It doesn't make like RPG sense, but it's a thing in the story. Still, the RPG actual stuff is pretty decent after the 31% mark. Again, you actually get descriptions of monsters, of levels, HPs, weaknesses, powers, strengths, XP from killing players. They can be used to purchase upgrades and levels. All this stuff is there. You're not really seeing much of it in the first third of the story. So it again, that's part of the reason I didn't like that first third in the first place. I would definitely say the story leans more towards game than LitRPG. Again, there are RPG elements here, but the story itself feels more like a multiplayer shooter than an RPG game-inspired system. Even the author himself, like in the other like pre-orders for the series, says, "Oh, it's inspired by these other like multiplayer games or these battle royale games," and none of those are really RPG games. So they just have RPG elements for like progression systems, which is perfectly fine. Just be aware of what you're getting into. With the exception, again, that one fight scene in the first 30%, that part was just boring for me. That's it. And again, overall, good fights, but that's kind of it. The rest of it wasn't really interesting. Like anything between those fights, just wasn't entertaining for me. And so for me, just in a look overall, again, there are some nice fights here. And if you like battle royale games, I think you might like this more than I did. So for me, it gets score 6 out of 10. That's Melee, a LitRPG adventure, book 1 with a score of 6 out of 10.